This is Kerbal Space Program. It's an awesome game. It's a spaceship building or spaceship construction and flight simulation game where you can build rockets and explore space a little bit. It's really quite fun. Lots of interesting features and parts to choose from. Lots of hilarious mishaps that are always involved in non-professional space travel, as oxymoronic as that sounds. I mean, you know, space travel is pretty much strictly professional until you get amateurs who, you know, build like rocket vehicles that then get airborne and become aerospace designs. But I digress. We're talking about this game, not people killing themselves with little funky cars and such. So the point of this game is, well, to play it. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun. But what you do is you build rockets or planes. They have jet engines and such, so you can do that if you want to be entertained with various aeronautical mishaps. But the basic gameplay is you build a rocket and try and fly it to orbit or to a different part of the planet or to the Mun, which is the game's entertaining name for a moon, or Minmus. It's second moon, which is closer to Pluto than not. That's pretty much it. There are some very entertaining features, like you can go EVA with the Kerbal, say hi to Neil Ree, Kerman. All of their last name is Kerman. It's just how it goes. We'll activate the rocket engines and fly away. If we go too fast, it'll probably explode, because that's what happens with rockets in this game. And in real life too, if you build them incorrectly. Or out of, you know, modular fuel tanks with improper, you know, connecting structures. But usually the game's pretty good about not killing you in a horrible... No, actually, I would be lying if I said that the game didn't blow you up a whole lot. Because it does. Because, well, that's what happens with, you know, amateur rocket science. This is one of those games where the saying, you know, this is just rocket science, no big deal, both applies and doesn't apply. But so, yeah, we are taking off now. Lots of useful displays. Like, this is our height up here. We're at about 6 kilometers up. We're going at 200 meters per second. I'm using the SAS, which stands for Stability
Augmentation System.
My friend says Stability Augmentation System, which is what it stands for. But acronyms bore me sometimes. It shows G-forces and throttle. And then we can go to the map screen, and it'll show what ships we have in orbit, and you can check their speed, and we can see what spaceships we have on the Mun, or on the Minmus, or in orbit around the Sun. I have none currently. And then we can keep going up. We can check on our current apoapsis, which is just over 55 kilometers, 60 kilometers. Getting close to 70 kilometers. Looks like, yeah, that stage just ran out of fuel. So I'm going to jettison it for the next one and begin rolling us into our orbit. Okay, we're at 73, so I'm going to cut the engines by using the cut all throttle or reduce throttle to 0 command, which is X. The game, it's pretty easy to control the spaceship, you know, just WASD, and then shift and control for the thrust controls. That's the basic controls, and then you can, you know, change the camera view and such. Whee! And then you can do things like use the SAS, and you can have reaction control system, which is thrusters. But currently this one doesn't have any thrusters on it because I didn't feel like putting them on. So we're nearing our orbit. We're about 10 kilometers below it, so I'm going to start circularizing our orbit, if we can get to orbit. We only have 3 fuel tanks. Well, make that pretty much about 2.5 now. But there's a pretty decent chance we'll get to orbit. If not, I put a parachute on the front of this, which is useful in getting yourself, well, not yourself, but one of your Kerbal knots down to Earth, or excuse me, down to Kerbal, which is the name of the planet. But usually you can get them back alive if you do a little bit of planning beforehand. Otherwise, you can't, and they die, and it's hilarious because watching little green men die trying to get to space is my idea of humor at pretty much its highest form. So we're going pretty fast now, almost 1,500 meters per second. In fact, we'll be getting well over 1,500 meters per second. But this game is wonderful because you can build all kinds of interesting and silly and fairly implausible spacecraft. It's still in beta development, which means currently it doesn't have re-entry heat. It has re-entry drag, but not re-entry heat build up. So your spaceship, if I could land this entire thing right now if I were to stop wasting fuel. And there we go. We are almost in orbit. However, alright, so I'm going to cut the engines now so I can have a little bit more fuel to get the periapsis higher, because currently it's at 53 kilometers, which is inside the atmosphere. And we're currently in space right now, but would re-enter the atmosphere at least partially. So I'm going to use the time warp feature to get further along in our orbit. Zipping along, 100 times normal speed. And then we're going to make orbit by pointing our fun little spaceship at our, well, towards our orbit, and then we will, here we go, posigrade acceleration, and our periapsis will shoot nicely up, and I'll cut that there. Now the only other feature that I'm going to show you guys in this video is EVA. Yeah, this is from the newest update, but you can go EVA with your little green man. Oh, little green men doing EVA. And then we can go back and try not to get lost in space or exit out of the thing. Tab. Okay, so this is our little rocket. It consists of a couple of fuel tanks and a go back. I'm trying. Yes! Alright, there we go. I have lost numerous Kerbal knots to falling off the ship while it's entering the atmosphere. The game, it's not the easiest of things to get back on your thing. You can put ladders on the side and other ways to grab it, which makes it infinitely easier. But until you do that, getting back on with this capsule is hard. But that is, in a nutshell, Kerbal Space Program. Say goodbye, Neil Ray.